Now, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, our next presenter, really knows the book of Daniel and the rest of the Bible. He knows the book of Daniel. He really knows the book of Daniel. And I just want to pull up a real quick chart before I introduce our next speaker here. This is the St. Louis Federal Reserve tracking the amount of currency in supply. This is like at 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960. You see the currency, the amount of currency in supply? And then you see 2010, then 2020, right? So we're headed into what, 7.1% inflation, 6.8% inflation. Some say on the verge of hyperinflation. And many people are wanting to know, what are we going to do with this currency fraud? What's happening? We have medical fraud, election fraud, but currency fraud. What do we do with government that's just printing money to buy things that they don't need, using money they don't have? Well, to tell you about what he believes to be the future, based upon his knowledge of the Bible, is a good friend of mine. This guy's going to blow your mind. You want to take notes? Get out your Bible. Use your discernment. It's truly mind-blowing. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stand to your feet and greet Polny.
God bless you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Clay, I love you. I stand before you today as a messenger to remind you of what God, the Father, has done in only 24 hours in history. To remind you what God the Father can do in only 24 hours. To remind you of what God the Father will do this year in only 24 hours. I take you to the book of Daniel, page 2. God only needs one day. And if the prophecy that I present to you today is true, no man can stand against it. I tell you a story today of 5 kings, one mighty, one foolish, one deceived, one wise, and one who is to sound the trumpet for the return of Jesus Christ. Page 4, Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. It blew his mind. It freaked him out. He wanted to know what it was. He called all his soothsayers and prophets, and no one could decipher it. But then he decreed that every soothsayer, every prophet would be killed within a 24-hour window. That morning, they would be put to death if they could not tell Nebuchadnezzar, the king, what his prophecy, what he dreamed. Daniel asked the king to pray on it, and he would come give him an answer in the morning. God, the revealer of all secrets, revealed the truth. Daniel stepped forward and told Nebuchadnezzar that morning that what you saw, king, was the prophecy of what God has planned for the next 2,500 years. The greatest prophecy ever told. To date, every single one of those kingdoms that were prophesied have come to pass except the final kingdom. Except the final kingdom. So what happened? In a 24-hour window, Daniel went from being killed in the morning to put second in command of all of Babylon. That is what our God can do. Nebuchadnezzar's story continues. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. What's their story? They refused to bow down to the mandate that Nebuchadnezzar said, you must all bow down to the statue of gold. And they refused. Nebuchadnezzar went crazy. He decreed that all 3 of them be thrown into the fire. It was heated 7-fold hotter than it ever was. And when they were thrown into the fire, there was a 4th appeared. Christ appeared in that fire. What happened? They came out in the fire, And what did Nebuchadnezzar decree? Therefore, any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn from limb to limb, their houses laid to ruin, for no other God can save in this way. So they went from being burned to Nebuchadnezzar declaring that anybody speak against them, they will be destroyed. The next king, Belshazzar the foolish. What did he do? He drank out of the golden chalices from the temple. What happened? The writing on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. He freaked out. He goes, who wrote this? What is it? What does it say? What's it meaning? No one could interpret it. So he called for Daniel, and Daniel showed up. And what did Daniel say? He interpreted it for him. Mene, your days are numbered, and you will be put to death today. Tekel, and you have been found wanting, and you have been found deficient. Upharsin, meaning your kingdom has been divided and will be given to the Medes and the Persians. That night, the prophecy was fulfilled. Belshazzar was killed by the king, Darius, who showed up. And that night, what happened to Daniel? That night, he had gold put around him, and he now worked for the new king, King Darius. This is what God can do in 24 hours. Do not forget. And then there's the great story of Darius. What happened to Darius? He was fooled by those in charge, and his favorite, Daniel, was to be put to death and thrown in the lion's den. But what happened? The lions wouldn't touch him. Between him and the lions was Jesus, the same God that stands before us today. You have to remember, God's in charge. That morning, Darius ran to see if he was alive, and he was. And he said, the lions haven't touched me. And this is what Daniel decreed. I hereby decree that every part of my kingdom, men are to tremble in fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God. He endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his dominion will never end. That day, what happened? Daniel was raised again. God won in a 24-hour period. Rather than Daniel dying, he was alive, and now he was to work for Cyrus the Great, king number 4. There was a prophecy, the prophecy of Jeremiah. Jeremiah prophesied that King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, would capture Jerusalem, and Israel would serve Babylon for 70 years. And that is exactly what happened. Cyrus shows up, and what does he state? He states, this is Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. Thus says Cyrus, the king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build a house in Jerusalem. Now, something truly incredible. What do? I study time. I'm a psychoanalyst. I study God's time. So what is a cycle? It is a timeline between 2 points that are identical. What changes is the characters and the events, but the timeline does not change. So what happened in our lifetime that we just witnessed? Do you realize that on May 14th of 1948, Israel was proclaimed a state? 70 years, not like maybe close, no, to the exact day, the U.S. Embassy was opened by President Trump, who is the Cyrus. Now, if this prophecy holds true, there's a second part to the prophecy that no one's catching. It's Isaiah, it just happens to be 45. Isaiah 45 states, I will raise up Trump. I'm replacing it with Cyrus. I will raise up Trump in my righteousness. I will make all his way straight. He will rebuild my cities and set my exiles, his church, free. This is what is to be decreed this year, 2022. Now, there's a special date coming in 2022, September 10th. I want to point you to the German-Israeli reparation agreement, which occurred on September 10th of 1952. 70 years to the day is this September 10th. These evil ones are going to pay. In 2022, the evil ones will pay for their sins against humanity. I want to tell you about our president. Do you realize that he was born 700 days to the exact day Israel was proclaimed a state? Everything around him rotates around 7 because that is Daniel's cycle of time. My wife is going to come up and I want to describe, we're going to do this together. My beautiful wife, thank you for coming here. I wanted to do a little presentation. Hopefully you can see these balance scales. I want to show you how they did what they did. How did they do it all? It's very simple. Started with a Federal Reserve Act in 1913. The money system. They took the money and they threw it out of balance. With the money, guess what you can buy? Politicians, Hollywood, you can buy the government, you can buy anybody you want with all the money. You can just keep creating it to infinity. And what did they do? They kept creating all the money to infinity. 50 years ago, they detached it from gold with Nixon, and now we are in the year of Jubilee. 50 years ago, as of August of this past year, they've been creating money to infinity, but they have one problem. God's money, gold and silver. How does God destroy them? With his money. It's going to throw the balances off. The money changers will lose. He's going to destroy them with his money. It's the kingdom economy is coming to this earth. Now, I want to read to you what happened. This is really important. This is Isaiah 61. This is what Jesus read in the temple. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed. He didn't read this last part. The year of the Lord's favor and the day of his vengeance. What is a day? It is 24 hours. We are about to see the hand of God come into us, into our world this year, and stop these evil ones. They've controlled humanity. They're trying to destroy the world, and the United States will stand. We're at the 50-year Jubilee. The 50 years started September 6th of last year, God's timeline, and will end in September of this year. I want to read to you the word cankered. There is a thing called contracts, gold and silver contracts. This is not God's money, this is their money. It's their paper contracts. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for the miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupt, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your silver and gold is cankered, and the rust of them shall be witness against you, and shall eat you as if it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures for the last days. The 10th day of the 7th month, April 11th of this year. The Red Sea moment. From when what happened is the Red Sea Passover was It starts on April 15th of this year and ends on April 23rd. It took 20 days for Israel to get to the Red Sea. Israel thought they were dead. Pharaoh was about to kill them. And within 24 hours, Israel, they were alive. Red Sea was closed, and Pharaoh was dead. So I stand here before you to tell you that this year is the year of the Lord's favor. The financial system, how does God do it? This is important. He will collapse the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar, their mechanism that they've bribed and paid off everybody, is about to collapse. It's going to crash this year. When this event happens, it's going to look horrible. You're going to freak out. You're going to, what the heck just happened? Your job is to go to your knees and to thank God for saving America. That will be the event that God needs to stop these evil people. They will lose their empires and their lives. This is a 7,000-year story that goes back from creation. 4,000 years it took for the Jews. We're in the 2,000-year mark, the latter part of it. There's not much time left, which leads us into the 1,000 years of the millennial reign. It's a 4-2-1 cycle. We are in third seal. The financial system collapse is the third seal of Revelation. So those of you that don't think we're in end times, we started end times in 2020. We're at the third seal moment, the collapse of the financial system. You can't stop Revelation. It's the Word of God. They're trying to bring in the Great Reset, but God's about to stick it to them and show them what He's all about with His wealth transfer. Trump is the polished and sharpened sword of God, protected this whole while by the hand of God, carefully preserved for His day of use. And after the 2020 great collapse, to save America, He will be reinstated to rebuild what God has brought down. And like the kings Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, and Cyrus of thousands of years before him, he will state, Trump will state, men are to tremble in fear of the God, for He is the living God. He endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and His dominion will never end. God needs one day. Trump is sounding the trumpet for the return of Jesus Christ. I stand before you today as a messenger of what is to come. I hope you have listened. I hope you have prepared. I hope you have ears to hear and eyes to see. This is a 100-plus page presentation. I went through 20 pages of it. The presentation can be downloaded. Just take a picture of this. All the details are there. In closing, my wife wanted to give this a quick little thank you to everybody.
Hi, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. So, who's here does not own silver? Raise your hand. Up high. All right, and who has a birthday in January? So that lady right there with the stripe raising her hand, can you come up here, please?
So in closing, this is called sowing seed. My wife and I are going to give a 12-ounce silver coin to this lady coming up. It is worth roughly $330 today, okay? My point being is, when you sow seed into God's kingdom, we are sowing into her family this right now. That 300, if you read Matthew 13, blessings are 30, 60, and 100-fold. That will be worth roughly $33,000 within the next 1 to 2 years. That is blessings. God bless everybody. Thank you.
Whoa. What's crazy is I know people that are, how many of you have been following the value of the U.S. dollar since 1971? Have you followed this? You know, so gold was like 30 bucks an ounce in 1971. Now it's like 1,800 bucks an ounce. And the people that I know that know nothing about the Bible agree with him about the hyperinflation to come and the collapse of the dollar. And the more and more I have him on the show, it makes me deep dive into Daniel, and it blows my mind every time. So if you want his slides, just go to timetofreeamerica.com/gold 2020. TimeToFreeAmerica.com/gold 2020. And if anything that you read in the book of Daniel disagrees with what he just said, go with the Bible. That's our pro tip, right? Well, that was a lot, was it not? Wow. So again, that's TimeToFreeAmerica.com/gold 2020. Thank you, Bo Polny. That was mind-blowing. Let's hear it one more time for Bo Polny.